Did you know that 95% of married men say that they want to be sexually desired by their wives? And the studies show that one of the top reasons that men go looking for love outside of marriage is because they don't feel strongly desired in their marriage. Now, out of those 95% of men who want to feel strongly desired in their marriages, guess what? Again, studies show that only 12% of these men say that the desire from their wife matches what they expect and what they hope to have. Now, there are massive impacts. There's unseen, invisible impacts that happen to a man when he doesn't feel like he's valued or desired powerfully by his wife. And oftentimes as men, it's very, very easy to just sweep this uncomfortable situation underneath the rug because the truth of it is just too painful to bear. And so we sedate. We sedate by activities, hobbies, sports. We go to the gym. We throw ourselves into our work because we're trying to fill the hole in our heart that's created by not feeling desired by our intimate partner. Now, this truth is so painful that most men, many men in marriages, will ignore it, and as a matter of fact, aren't even aware that this is even an issue. They never let themselves get close enough to their own feelings that they can feel this deep, sad loneliness and feeling of desperation. And when we're not in touch with one of our primal needs, with something that our soul and our body desires, then as men, we need to sedate it somehow because we can't operate on a daily basis being in this much pain. And the ways to sedate this pain and to numb this pain are varied. Everything from pornography, masturbation, cheating, overworking, serving in the community, doing things outside of the home. You see, the crazy part about this is that even the good things can serve to sedate us, to separate us from this pain. Now, what I want you to consider, when you just consider those numbers, just consider that for a minute. If you're watching this or listening to this podcast, just consider those numbers. 95% of married men say that it is extremely important for them to feel sexually desired by their wives. And yet only 12% of men say that they feel sexually desired by their partners. Now, I want to create a distinction here because when we talk about what does it mean to feel sexually desired by our partner, there's a spectrum just like anything. So on the far left, we could say there's no desire at all. As a matter of fact, our intimate partner is disgusted by us. This applies to men who perhaps are in sexless marriages or in extremely toxic relationships. There's zero sexual desire there. And then on the other end, what does it look like when the woman fully sexually desires her man? That she's passionately attracted to him. Well, one thing I can guarantee is that this man's intimate life is going to be a lot more fulfilling than the guy who's midway up that scale or perhaps all the way on the far left. So the sad reality is the vast majority of men find themselves extremely sexually frustrated. And if these men are more aware of themselves and their emotions, what they'll realize is that this sexual frustration is just on the surface. Even deeper than that, they are emotionally frustrated. They're emotionally depressed. When a guy doesn't feel desired by his wife, it erodes this man's sense of self-confidence. It erodes his feeling of being a powerful provider. It causes the man to second-guess his decisions. It causes him to leak certainty, to be unsure and indecisive. And all of this happens almost invisibly, especially if the man isn't aware consciously that this is happening. Now, I've seen this happen in my own life. There have been times when I have been on vacation, and when I say vacation, I mean I've been on a business trip. I come back from the business trip, and the chaos of the home hits me. Suddenly, I'm surrounded by chaos again, but even more importantly that, I'm surrounded by the idea and face-to-face with the fact that I don't feel complete in the one intimate relationship that should be the most powerful to me, the relationship with my wife. And when a man's sense of confidence is eroded, when a man's sense of certainty is under attack, when a man is plagued by doubts about his own self-worth, He ends up putting up walls around his life, and he makes decisions, and this energy then flows over into other areas of his life. It impacts negatively the other aspects of life. His financial performance, potentially, his fitness and his physical health, and certainly his feeling of centeredness and relationship to God. Now, I want you to flip over to the other side and consider the following possibility. Consider that you as a man felt voraciously desired by your wife. Just sit with that thought for a minute. Consider that you as a man felt voraciously desired by your wife. What would that look like? How would that make you feel? That she was crazy about you. Well, for a man, this would involve in a lot of physical intimacy. In other words, a lot of sex. And not just obligation sex, obligatory sex. Sex where the wife's tired and she just does it because she feels like it's her duty. But sex where she feels like she's drawing you forth. You know, it's unfortunate that one of the reasons why so many men are leaking power today is because there's no safe space for them to be able to have these kind of conversations. There's very few places where men can go and actually be open about what they want in a marriage. Just consider this. How many friends do you have in your life that can have these kind of deep conversations with you without judgment and without complaint? How many groups do you belong to where you can talk about your deepest, most intimate fears and desires, things that you may not even tell your wife? My guess is that you don't have anything like that. If you do, you're one of the few and the lucky. But a man that doesn't have this kind of support in his life ultimately withers. He becomes frustrated, and he becomes a shell of the man that he could become. And he can be successful. He can be well regarded outside of his home. But deep down inside, he knows that there's a crucial piece that's missing. Now, there's one key principle that us as men are missing. We may understand it intellectually, but we just don't get it. We don't get it from a knowingness. And this principle is this. If you want your marriage to change, if you want to feel voraciously desired by your woman, if you want to have deep, intimate connection with her, if you feel deprived of sex and you just simply want to have sex more often, then the principle is this: be the change that you want to see. You are not a victim. You have the power, and everything you want is within your hands. Now, this is difficult to see because oftentimes when we're in a relationship, we can say, I'm doing my best. I've tried everything. I do this, but still she won't change. Well, this is true. Sometimes you can clean up your act. Sometimes you can you can become the kind of man that can draw forth that kind of woman. But oftentimes, she's been so shut out by you in the past. Your history and patterns of sedation, of emotional hollowness, of immature behavior have corrupted your wife's view of the kind of man that you are. So once you start to change and once you start to become the man that can bring forth that kind of woman, it takes time. And sometimes it's never even going to happen. And this is where many men come to a difficult decision and they decide whether they are going to stay in this relationship or whether they're going to call it quits. I have a lot of friends that have gone down this path. Most of them have been able to reinvent the relationship, and their wife has responded to the changes that they've made. And they've gone on to accelerate their relationship. But there have been some that they had to call it quits. They were in abusive relationships. They were in codependent relationships. They were in relationships where the woman was simply unwilling to meet their needs. Now, every marriage is different. But a partner who's not willing to meet their partner and is not willing to meet their needs, is not willing to try to work on the relationship, this person has already checked out of the relationship, and it's likely that there is no relationship there at all anyways. So what does this have to do with the Atonement Podcast, and where are we going? Why are we talking about this pain that us as men feel as men? Well, for the simple reason that if you listen to this podcast, my suspicion is, and my hunch is is that you are a soul warrior. You are someone that has a purpose and a fire within your soul, and you're looking to unleash it. And you're looking for information and guides and mentors and people that can point you along the way on your own path of greatness. But you haven't found it yet. And so you're hoping. You're just hoping that something I say or some YouTube video you come across or some book you read is going to open up the way for you to find out how to get everything that you actually want. Which brings up another topic, that as men, oftentimes we give up on what we actually want. We settle for things that are far, far below our potential, far, far below what we could potentially create and enjoy. And this is perhaps the saddest thing of all. Doctrine and Covenants, section 29:34, there's a verse that says, "Wherefore verily I say unto you that all things unto me are spiritual, and not at any time have I given unto you a law which was temporal, neither any man nor the children of men, neither Adam your father whom I created." This is from the Doctrine and Covenants, section 29, verse 34. The key here to consider is this idea that all things are spiritual. You see, I lived the first part of my life with this false separation between what I thought was spirituality and life. I thought that spirituality was going to church, and spirituality was participating in certain ordinances and magnifying my calling and serving a mission and praying and reading the scriptures. These are the so-called Sunday school answers that we hear all the time at church. What do you need to be close to God? What do you need to do to feel the Spirit? What do you need to do to invite guidance into your life? Attend church, go to the temple, and pray. Read your scriptures. Like, this is what you'll be told at church. And unfortunately, if that's what you've been taught, and if that's the only thing that's entered into your world, then you're missing out on one of the most beautiful principles of expansion as a man. And that principle is simply this: that everything is spiritual. And the most powerful path for your spiritual liberation, for your salvation, for your exaltation, comes not in going to church, as blasphemous as that may sound, but it comes from your lived life. Your relationship being one of the primary things that is a litmus test for your spiritual progress in this life. You see, your wife is given to you for a reason. Your wife is given to you to challenge you. Your wife is given to you to call forth the king within you. And the question is, will you rise? You see, these feelings of inadequacy, these feelings of not being desired, this is your wife calling you forward. This is her soul challenging you and asking you, will you rise to the challenge? Will you become the kind of person who can bring out the queen in me? Because if you're waiting for your wife, I want you to consider, if you're waiting for your wife to rise as the queen, then you could be waiting a very, very long time. Because my guess is your wife already is the queen, and she's waiting for you to rise as the king. It's much too easy to look at our partner, to point the finger of blame and to say it's all her fault. She won't do this, she won't do that, she's this, she lacks this, it's not the way it was before, this isn't the woman I married, I've fallen out of love, I don't like her anymore, why does she criticize me so much, how come she spends more time with our kids, why doesn't she ever give me any attention, it seems like she doesn't care about me. Like, I get it. These are the thoughts and these are the negative stories that run rampant in our minds. And step number one is simply becoming aware that this is victim mentality. God did not put you here on this planet to be a victim. And if you've been seduced by victim thinking, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. That little voice that tells you there's something messed up with you or perhaps you're inadequate, that's the very same voice that gives you the victim thinking. That's the very same delusion and illusory voice that wants to bring you down and stop you from reaching your full potential. You know, one of the things in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that I hear a lot is the idea of porn addiction and the scourge of pornography that's sweeping the earth. What I'll assert is that pornography is a symptom of a root cause. The pornography is not the disease. The pornography is the symptom of the disease. The reason men go to pornography is because they find a gap in their own intimate relationship. Now, having said that, I'm not referring to men and women who may use pornography in their intimate relationship in healthy and bonding ways. I'm referring to men who use pornography to sedate, to numb, and to escape the reality of their lives and of their relationships. And one of the biggest lies foisted upon religious men today is that if you are looking at pornography habitually, that you're addicted to sex, that you're addicted to porn, that you have a sex addiction, that there's something wrong with you fundamentally with your hypersexuality. But here's the truth. The only reason a man sedates with pornography is because he's feeling unfulfilled and unsatisfied in his primary intimate relationship. And here's the second principle. It's easy for us as men to look at our wives and say, well, she's the fault. She's the reason why I'm not feeling wanted. This is a victim mentality, and it's simply not true. God has given you the ability to be a creator. God has given you the ability to create your life. And yes, creating with another person is challenging because you're going to have to make some moves in your life to alter some ways of being, some habitual patterns that you've had. And oftentimes men have difficulty accepting this because they think, I don't see how this could possibly happen. I've tried everything. I don't see how I could change. This is all my wife's fault. And as long as you're playing that pity party in your head, as long as you're blaming your wife, things will never change. It'll never happen. But what I can tell you, what I can guarantee, is if you pull on your britches, if you put on your big boy pants, if you start to take responsibility for yourself and your relationship, if you stop casting the finger of blame at your wife, and you look at yourself directly in the mirror, just like David Goggins talks about, and you recognize that there's power in the idea that you are the problem, because when you are the problem, guess what? You're also the solution. So our first principle is that lack of fulfillment in marriage is causing you to leak power in other invisible areas of life. Principle number 2 is that you're not a victim. You have control in the matter, and your wife is waiting for you to rise as the king in your marriage so she can meet you as the divine queen that she is. So you may be listening to this and wondering, well, Enoch, what do you mean by rise as the king? What do you mean by I have the control, I am the creator of my life? Like, how do I actually go from where I'm at right now to where I want to be? How do I go from a man who knows that my marriage is not living up to the potential that I know it could be? I'm a man who's not willing to settle for mediocrity. Maybe I have in the past, but I'm deciding that now is the time that I'm demanding of myself a change. I'm going to work on this marriage. I'm going to make it work. Because if this is my eternal companion, I recognize and I realize that if I don't create that eternal bond right here in this life, there's no guarantee that it can be created in the next. That's why we read in the Book of Mormon again, and the Alma talks about today being the day of our probation. Work while there's light. Do the work before the night when no work can be done. You see, when you get this game of spirituality, and I'm doing some air quotes here, when you get the game of spirituality and you realize that the spiritual is not separated from the physical, from the temporal, from the day-to-day living of life, this becomes an incredibly beautiful game because you realize as you pursue your production of your financial abundance, as you pursue your prosperity in your relationship, as you pursue your physical fitness and your health, it is in this pursuit, it is in this journey that you will find yourself becoming the man that you were meant to be and developing your spirit in the ways in which you were destined to come to earth to develop your spirit. So consider that the areas in life where that are not working right now, the areas where you feel like life is not working for you, that these are your access point to your spiritual growth, to your power. Do you want to be wealthy? You can have it. Do you want to be a well-sexed man that all the other guys are jealous of? You can have it. Do you want to be powerfully connected to God and to your sense of purpose? You can have it. And you want to have a body on fire that's not only fit and strong but also flexible. You're not worried about pulling your back when you get down on the floor to play with your kids or your grandchildren. You're not worried about blowing your knee out if you stumble off of the curb. And you're not worried about breaking your arm if you trip and fall in the grass. Now, one of the most powerful modalities of personal growth that I've been introduced to in the past decade has been something called the Warrior's Way. The Warrior's Way is a system of looking at your body, your being, your balance, and your business. Focusing on, number one, the areas that aren't working for you, and then identifying what would be the possibility in this area. What would my life look like if this part of my life was working? Not just surviving, but thriving. Not just getting by, but excelling. What I'll tell you is that the man that has all four areas, all four domains of his life working at a high level. This is a man who's filled with certainty. This is a man who's filled with purpose. This is a man who is leaving an impact and a legacy. And more important, this is a man who's feeling fulfilled at his core. Not because of his outward success and his achievement, but because of the man he has had to become to make those achievements. So, I'm going to finish up this episode for today, and I'm going to leave you with an offer. I'm going to be starting a small coaching group of men, teaching them how to implement and use the Warrior's Way in their life across body, being, balance, and business to identify the area that's not working for them, and then to map out a path to get from where they are right now to the pleasurable possibility of where maybe right now all you can do is desire to hope that you can get there. I'm going to be working with a small group of men who want to eliminate their sexless or unsatisfying marriage and turn it into a marriage that is on fire. Men perhaps right now who are struggling financially that want to step into wealth and abundance. And I will be your guide to share with you the exact frameworks and steps that I've used over the past 10 years to go from being on food stamps and unemployed, taking 5-figure month-long vacations in Europe with my family, to not having a second thought about buying season passes for my kids at the snow resort for skiing or snowboarding. Being able to write a check paid in full to buy a car for my children. And most importantly, feeling sexually desired by my wife. If you'd like to be considered to be one of the few guys to be part of this small group, message me on Instagram. If you listen to this podcast, you know how to find me. Send me a message on Facebook Messenger and just say that you heard about my offer to learn a shortcut about how you can go from where you are now, either in your body, your balance, which is your relationship, or your business, your finances, to where you want to be. The most successful men surround themselves with other powerful men. The most successful men look for guidance, accountability, and support to accelerate their progress from struggle to success. Now, this group won't be for everyone. There will be an application process, and I'm going to have to ask you some questions to see if you're a right fit for this group. And look, if it's not a fit, I'll let you know. And if you feel, after hearing more about this group, if you feel like it's not a fit for you, no problem, you can tell me no as well. So with that, I'm going to wrap this episode. I look forward to speaking and hearing more from those of you whose hearts have been touched or resonated with something that I've shared today on this podcast episode. This is Enoch Sears reminding you, carpe diem, and goodbye for now.